everyone. Hello. Welcome in, members. This is the very first stream that I'll be doing. So if it's a little scuff, please forgive me. This is the very first stream I'll be doing for members content bedtime stories. Yay! Okay, so we're gonna start with some bedtime stories for the members. Yeah. So I hope everybody is ready for some sweet dreams as I tell you a story to lull you to sleep. Our first book is gonna be Dune by Frank Herbert. I'll be reading through it for you. My paperback copy of Dune actually came with a couple of messages from previous owners of the book, so I thought that I'd read those out actually at the beginning. So you guys could get like an idea of how much this book has meant to different people over the years. I just thought it was sweet and cute. So the first message is for Kristen. This is my favorite book. I hope you like it too. I had to read it a few times to get all of the stories, and I still read it. There's lots to learn. So this was originally from somebody else to a girl named Kristen, it sounds like. And then there was another inscription in here from somebody else. They didn't leave any name or anything, but it's different handwriting, and it says try, quote, The Meek by Scott McKay. So this has had at least 2 different owners before me. 3 different owners if it went to Kristen, whoever that is. And I added my own in here. Saying ShiroNekoNya TTV was here. I don't intend to ever get rid of this, but I guess if I ever do. Anyway, so I'll just go ahead and start book 1, Dune. If I pronounce things like wildly incorrectly, forgive me. I've read this book once before, and of course I've watched the movie. So, I hope that, I hope I do it justice. I guess we're gonna see. Okay, here we go. Let's see. In the week before their departure to Arrakis, when all the final scurrying about had reached a nearly unbearable frenzy, an old crone came to visit the mother of a boy, Paul. It was a warm night in Castle Caladan, and the ancient pile of stone that had served the Atreides family as home for 26 generations bore that cooled sweat feeling it acquired before a change in the weather. The old woman was led in by the side door, down the vaulted passage by Paul's room, and she was allowed a moment to peer in at him where he lay in his bed. By the half-light of a dispenser lamp, dimmed and hanging near the floor, the awakened boy could see a bulky female shape at his door, standing one step ahead of his mother. The old woman was a witch shadow, hair like matted spiderwebs, hooded round darkness of features, eyes glittering like jewels. "Is he not small for his age, Jessica?" the old woman asked. Her voice wheezed and twanged like an untuned balisette. Paul's mother answered in her soft contralto. "The Atreides are known to start late getting their growth, Your Reverence." So I've heard, wheezed the old woman. "Yet he's already 15. "Yes, Your Reverence." "He is awake and listening to us," said the old woman. "Sly little rascal." She chuckled. "But royalty has need of slyness, and if he's really the Kwisatz well." Within the shadows of his bed, Paul held his eyes open to mere slits. 2 bird-bright ovals, the eyes of the old woman, seemed to expand and glow as they stared into his. "Sleep well, you sly little rascal," said the old woman. "Tomorrow you'll need all your faculties to meet my gom jobber." And she was gone, pushing his mother out, closing the door with a solid thump. Paul lay awake wondering, What's a gom jabber? In all the upset during this time of change, the old woman was the strangest thing he had seen. Your reverence. And the way she called his mother Jessica like a common serving wench instead of what she was, a Bene Gesserit lady, a duke's concubine, and the mother of the ducal heir? Is a grom jabber something of Arrakis I must know before we go there, he wondered? He mouthed her strange words, grom jabber, Kwisatz Haderach. There had been so many things to learn. Arrakis would be a place so different from Caladan that Paul's mind whirled with the new knowledge. Arrakis, Dune, desert planet. The Fur Hawat, his father's master of assassins, had explained it. Their mortal enemies, the Harkonnens, had been on Arrakis 80 years, holding the planet in quasi-fief under Coam Company, contract to mine the geriatric spice melange. Now the Harkonnens were leaving to be replaced by the House of Atreides in fief complete, an apparent victory for the Duke Leto. Yet, Hawat had said, this appearance contained the deadliest peril, for the Duke Leto was popular among the great houses of Lanstrad. A popular man arouses the jealousy of the powerful, Hawat had said. Arrakis, Dune, desert planet. Paul fell asleep to the dream of an Arakan cavern, silent people all around him moving in the dim light of glow globes. It was solemn there, and like a cathedral as he listened to a faint sound, the drip, drip, drip of water. Even while he remained in the dream, Paul knew he would remember it upon awakening. He always remembered the dreams that were predictions, and the dream faded. Paul awoke to feel himself in the warmth of his bed, thinking. This world of Castle Caladan, without play or companions of his own age, perhaps did not deserve sadness and farewell. Dr. Yue, his teacher, had hinted that the Fafrelush's class system was not rigidly guarded on Arrakis. The planet sheltered people who lived at the desert edge without Cade or Bashar to command them. Willow the Sand people called Fremen, marked down on no census in the Imperial Regate. Arrakis, Dune, desert planet. Paul sensed his own tensions, decided to practice one of the mind-body lessons his mothers had taught him. 3 quick breaths triggered the response. He fell into the floating awareness, focusing the consciousness. Aortal dilation, avoiding the unfocused mechanism of consciousness. To be conscious by choice. Blood enriched and swift-flowing the overload regions. One does not obtain food safety freedom by instinct alone. Animal consciousness does not extend beyond the given moment, nor into the idea that its victims may become extinct. The animal destroys and does not produce. Animal pleasures remain close to his sensation levels and avoid perceptual. The human requires a background grid through which to see his universe. Focused consciousness by choice, this forms your grid. Bodily integrity follows nerve blood flow according to the deepest awareness of cell needs. All things cell beings are impermanent. Strive for flow permanence within. Over and over and over within Paul's floating awareness, the lesson rolled. When dawn touched Paul's window sill, the yellow light, he sensed it through closed lids. Opened them, hearing then the renewed bustle and hurry in the castle, seeing the familiar patterned beams on his bedroom ceiling. The hall door opened and his mother peered in, hair like shaded bronze, held with a black ribbon at the crown, her oval face emotionless and green eyes staring solemnly.
You're awake,
she said.
Did you sleep well?
Yes. He studied the tallness of her, saw the hint of tension in her shoulders as she chose clothing for him from the closet racks. Another might have missed the tension, but she had trained him in the Bene Gesserit way, in the minutiae of observation. She turned, holding a semi-formal jacket for him that carried the red Atreides hawk crest above the breast pocket.
Hurry and dress,
she said.
Reverend Mother is waiting.
I dreamed of her once, Paul said. Who is she?
She was my teacher at the Bene Gesserit school. Now she's the Emperor's truthsayer, and Paul...
She hesitated.
You must tell her about your dreams.
I will. Is she the reason we got Arrakis?
We did not get Arrakis.
Jessica flicked dust from a pair of trousers, hung them with the jacket on the dressing stand beside his bed.
Don't keep Reverend Mother waiting.
Paul sat up, hugged his knees. What's a Gram Jabbar? Again, the training she had given him exposed her almost invisible hesitation, a nervous betrayal he felt as fear. Jessica crossed to the window, flung wide the draperies, stared across the rivered orchards towards Mount Subi.
You'll learn about them, the Gom Jabbar, soon enough,
she said. He heard the fear in her voice and wondered at it. Jessica spoke without turning.
Reverend Mother's waiting in my morning room. Please hurry.
The Reverend Mother, Gaius Helen Mohiam, sat in the tapestried chair watching mother and son approach. Windows on each side of her overlooked the curving southern bend of the river and the green farmlands of the Atreides family holding. But the Reverend Mother ignored the view. She was feeling her age this morning, more than a little petulant. She blamed it on space travel in association with that abominable spacing guild and its secretive ways. But here was a mission that required personal attention from a Bene Gesserit with the sight. Even the Padasha Emperor's truthsayer couldn't evade the responsibility when the duty came. Damn that Jessica, the Reverend Mother thought. If only she'd borne us a girl as she was ordered to. Jessica stopped 3 paces from the chair, dropped a small curtsy, a gentle flick of the left hand along the line of her skirt. Paul gave the short bow his dancing master had taught, the one used when in doubt of another station. The nuances of Paul's greeting were not lost on the Reverend Mother. She said,
He's a conscious one. He's a cautious one, Jessica.
Jessica's hand went to Paul's shoulder, tightened there. Her heartbeat fear pulsed through her palm. Then she had herself under control.
Thus he has been taught, Your Reverence.
What does she fear? Paul wondered. The old woman studied Paul in one gestalten flicker, face oval like Jessica's, but strong bones, hair the Duke's black, but with brow line of the maternal grandfather who cannot be named, and that thin, disdainful nose, shape of directly staring green eyes, like the old Duke, the paternal grandfather who is dead. Now there was a man who appreciated the power of bravura, even in death, the Reverend Mother thought.
Teaching is one thing,
she said.
The basic ingredient is another. We shall see.
The old eyes darted a hard glance at Jessica.
Leave us. I enjoin you to practice the meditation of peace.
Jessica took her hand from Paul's shoulder.
Your Reverence, Jessica, you know it must be done.
Paul looked at his mother, puzzled. Jessica straightened.
Yes, of course.
Paul looked back at the Reverend Mother. Politeness and his mother's obvious awe of this old woman argued caution. Yet he felt an angry apprehension at the fear he sensed radiating from his mother.
Paul,
Jessica took a deep breath.
This test you're about to receive, it's important to me.
Test? He looked up at her.
Remember that you're a Duke's son,
Jessica said. She whirled and strode from the room in a dry swishing of her skirt. The door closed solidly behind her. Paul faced the old woman, holding anger in check. Does one dismiss the Lady Jessica as though she were a serving wench? A smile flickered the corners of the wrinkled old mouth.
The Lady Jessica was my serving wench, lad. For 14 years at school.
She nodded.
And a good one, too. Now, you come here.
The command whipped out at him. Paul found himself obeying before he could even think about it. Using the voice on me, he thought. He stopped at her gesture, standing beside her knees.
See this?
She asked. From the folds of her gown, she lifted a green metal cube about 15 centimeters on a side. She turned it and Paul saw that one side was open, black and oddly frightening. No light penetrated that open blackness.
Put your hand in the box,
she said. Fear shot through Paul. He started to back away, but the old woman said,
Is this how you obey your mother?
He looked up into bird-bright eyes. Slowly, feeling the compulsions and unable to inhibit them, Paul put his hand into the box. He felt first a sense of cold as the blackness closed around his hand, then slick metal against his fingers and prickling as though his hand were asleep. A predatory look filled the old woman's features. She lifted her right hand away from the box and poised the hand close to the side of Paul's neck. He saw a glint of metal there and started to turn toward it.
Stop,
She snapped, using the voice again. He swung his attention back to her face.
I hold at your neck the Gom Jabbar,
She said.
The Gom Jabbar, the high-handed enemy. It's a needle with a drop of poison on its tip. Ah! Don't pull away or you'll feel that poison.
Paul tried to swallow in a dry throat. He could not take his attention from the seamed old face, the glistening eyes, the pale gums around silvery metal teeth that flashed as she spoke.
A duke's son must know about poisons,
She said.
It's the way of our times, eh? Musky to be poisoned in your drink. Must to be poisoned in your food. The quick ones and the slow ones and the ones in between. Here's a new one for you. The Gom Jabbar. It kills only animals.
Pride overcame Paul's fear. You dare suggest the Duke's son is an animal? He demanded.
Let us say that I suggest you may be human.
She said.
Steady. I warn you not to try jerking away. I am old. But my hand can drive this needle into your neck before you escape me.
Who are you? He whispered. How did you trick my mother into leaving me alone with you? Are you from the Harkonnens?
The Harkonnens? Bless you, no. Now be silent.
A dry finger touched his neck and he stilled the voluntary urge to leap away.
Good.
She said.
You passed the first test. Now, here's the way of the rest of it. If you withdraw the hand from the box, you die. This is the only rule. Keep your hand in the box and live. Withdraw it and die.
Paul took a deep breath to still his trembling. If I call out here, there'll be servants on you in seconds and you'll die.
Servants will not pass your mother who stands guard outside that door, depend on it. Your mother survived this test. Now it's your turn. Be honored. We seldom administer this to men, children.
Curiosity reduced Paul's fear to a manageable level. He heard truth in the old woman's voice, no denying it. If his mother stood guard out there, if this were truly a test, and whatever it was, he knew himself caught in it, trapped by that hand at his neck, the Gom Jabbar. He recalled the response from the litany against fear as his mother had taught him out of the Bene Gesserit rite. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me, and when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear is gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. He felt calmness return, said, Get on with it, old woman.
Older woman.
She snapped.
You've courage, and that can't be denied. Well, we shall see, sir.
She bent close, lowered her voice almost to a whisper.
You will feel pain in this hand within the box. Pain, but withdraw the hand and I'll touch your neck with my Gom Jabbar. The death so swift it's like the fall of the headsman's axe. Withdraw your hand and the Gom Jabbar takes you. Understand?
What's in the box?
Pain.
He felt increased tingling in his hand, pressed his lips tightly together. How could this be a test? He wondered. The tingling became an itch. The old woman said,
You've heard of animals chewing off a leg to escape a trap? That's an animal kind of trick. A human would remain in the trap, endure the pain, finding death until it meant to kill the trapper and remove a threat to its kind.
The itch became the faintest burning. Why are you doing this? He demanded.
To determine if you're human, be silent.
Paul clenched his left hand into a fist as the burning sensation increased in the other hand. It mounted slowly, heat upon heat upon heat upon heat. He felt the fingernails of his free hand biting the palm. He tried to flex his fingers of the burning hand, but couldn't move them. It burns, he whispered.
Silence!
Pain throbbed up his arm. Sweat stood out on his forehead. Every fiber cried out to withdraw the hand from that burning pit. But the Gamjabar. Without turning his head, he tried to move his eyes to see that terrible needle poised beside his neck. He sensed that he was breathing in gas. Tried to slow his breaths and couldn't. Pain! The world emptied of everything except that hand immersed in agony. The ancient face inches away, staring at him. His lips were so dry, he had difficulty separating them. The burning. The burning. He thought he could feel skin curling black on that agonized hand, the flesh crisping and dropping away until only charred bones remained. It stopped. As though a switch had been turned off, the pain stopped. Paul felt his right arm trembling, sweat bathing his body.
Enough,
The old woman muttered.
Kuruahad. No woman child ever withstood that much. I must have wanted you to fail.
She leaned back, withdrawing the Gamjabar from the side of his neck.
Take your hand from the box, young human, and look at it.
He fought down an aching shiver, staring at the lightless void where his hand seemed to remain of its own volition. Memory of the pain inhibited every movement. Reason told him he would withdraw a blackened stump from that box.
Do it!
She snapped. He jerked his hand from the box, stared at it, astonished. Not a mark. No sign of agony on his flesh. He held up his hand, turned it, flexed his finger.
Pain by nerve induction,
She said.
Can't go around maiming potential humans. There are those who'd give a pretty for the secret of this box, though.
She slipped it into the folds of her gown. But the pain, he said.
Pain.
She sniffed.
A human can override any nerve in the body.
Paul felt his left hand aching, uncurled and clenched fingers, looked at 4 bloody marks where fingernails had bitten into his palm. He dropped the hand to his side, looked at the old woman. You did that to my mother once?
Ever sift sand through a screen?
She asked. The tangential slash of her question shocked his mind into a higher awareness. Sand through a screen. He nodded.
We Bene Gesserit sift people to find the humans.
He lifted his right hand, willing the memory of the pain. And that's all there is to it? Pain?
I observed you in pain, lad. Pain's merely the axis of the test. Your mother told you about our ways of observing. I see the signs of her teachings in you. Our test is crisis and observation.
He heard the confirmation in her voice, said, It's truth. She stared at him. He senses truth. Could he be the one? Could he truly be the one? She extinguished the excitement, reminding herself. Hope clouds observation.
You know when people believe what they say.
She said, I know it. The harmonics of ability confirmed by repeated tests were in his voice. She heard them said,
Perhaps you are the Kwisatz Haderach. Sit down, little brother, here at my feet.
I prefer to stand.
Your mother sat at my feet once.
I am not my mother.
You hate us a little, eh?
She looked towards the door, called out,
Jessica!
The door flew open, and Jessica stood there, staring hard-eyed into the room. Hardness melted from her as she saw Paul. She managed a faint smile.
Jessica, have you ever stopped hating me?
The old woman asked.
I both love and hate you,
Jessica said.
The hate, that's from pains I must never forget. The love, that's just basic fact,
The old woman said, but her voice was gentle.
You may come in now, but remain silent. Close that door and mind that no one interrupts us.
Jessica stepped into the room, closed the door, and stood with her back to it. My son lives, she thought. My son lives and is human, I knew he was, but he lives. Now I can go on living. The door felt hard and real against her back. Everything in the room was immediate and pressing against her senses. My son lives. Paul looked at his mother. She told the truth. He wanted to get away alone and think his experience through, but knew he could not leave until he was dismissed. The old woman had gained a power over him. They spoke the truth. His mother had undergone this test. There must be some terrible purpose in it. The pain and the fear had been terrible. He understood terrible purposes. They drove against all laws. They were their own necessity. Paul felt he had been infected with terrible purpose. He did not know yet what the terrible purpose was.
Someday, lad,
The old woman said.
You too may have to stand outside a door like that. Takes a measure of doing.
Paul looked down at the hand that had known pain, then up to the Reverend Mother. The sound of her voice had contained a difference then from any other voice in his experience. The words were outlined in brilliance. There was an edge to them. He felt that any questions he might ask her would bring an answer that could lift him out of his flesh world and into something greater. Why do you test for humans? He asked.
To set you free.
Free?
Once men turned their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free. But that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them.
Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a man's mind, Paul quoted.
Right out of the Butlerian Jihad in the Orange Catholic Bible,
She said.
But what the OC Bible should have said is, Thou shalt not make a machine to counterfeit a human mind. Have you studied the Mentat in your service?
I've studied with Thufir Hawat,
The Great Revolt took away a crutch.
she said.
It forced humans' minds to develop. Schools were started to train human talents.
Bene Gesserit schools?
She nodded. We have two chief survivors of those ancient schools, Bene Gesserit and the Spacing Guild. The Spacing Guild, so we think, emphasizes almost pure mathematics. Bene Gesserit performs another function.
Politics, he said.
Kurwahad.
The old woman said. She sent a hard glance at Jessica.
I've not told him, Your Reverence.
Jessica said. The Reverend Mother returned her attention to Paul.
You did that on remarkably few clues,
She said.
Politics indeed. The original Bene Gesserit school was directed by those who saw the need of a thread of continuity in human affairs. They saw there would be no such continuity without separating human stock from animal stock, for breeding purposes.
The old woman's words abruptly lost their special sharpness for Paul. He felt an offense against what his mother called his instinct for rightness. It wasn't that Reverend Mother lied to him. She obviously believed what she said. It was something deeper, something tied to his terrible purpose. He said, But my mother tells me many Bene Gesserit of the schools don't know their ancestry.
The genetic lines are always in our records,
She said.
Your mother knows that either she is of Bene Gesserit descent, or her stock was acceptable in itself.
Then why couldn't she know who her parents are?
Some do, many don't. You might, for example, have wanted to breed her to a close relative to set up a dominant in some genetic trait. We have many reasons.
Again, Paul felt the offense against rightness. He said, You take a lot upon yourselves. The Reverend Mother stared at him, wondering, Did I hear criticism in his voice?
We carry a heavy burden,
She said. Paul felt himself coming more and more out of the shock of the test. He leveled a measuring stare at her, said, You say maybe I'm the Kwisatz Haderach? What's that, a human Gom Jabbar?
Paul,
Jessica said.
you mustn't take that tone with. I'll handle this, Jessica.
the old woman said.
Now, lad, do you know about the truth-sayer drug?
You take it to improve your ability to detect falsehood, he said. My mother's told me.
Have you ever seen truth trance?
He shook his head no,
The drug's dangerous,
she said.
but it gives insight. When a truth-sayer is gifted by the drug, she can look at many places in her memory, in her body's memory. We look down so many avenues of the past, but only feminine avenues.
Her voice took on a note of sadness.
Yet there's a place where no truth-sayer can see. We are repelled by it, terrorized. It is said a man will come one day and find in the gift of the drug his earward eye. He will look where we cannot, into both feminine and masculine paths.
You're Kwisatz Haderach.
Yes, the one who can be many places at once. The Kwisatz Haderach. Many men have tried the drug. So many. But none have succeeded.
They tried and failed, all of them?
Oh no.
She shook her head.
They tried and died.
It was a relief globe of the world, partly in shadows, spinning under the impetus of a fat hand that glittered with rings. The globe sat on a freeform stand at one wall of a windowless room whose other walls presented a patchwork of multicolored scrolls. Film books, tapes, and reels. Light glowed in the room from golden balls hanging in a mobile dispenser field. An ellipsoid desk with a top of jade-pink petrified alaca wood stood at the center of the room. Variform dispenser chains ringed it, 2 of them occupied. In one sat a dark-haired youth of about 16 years, round of face and with sullen eyes. The other held a slender, short man with an effeminate face. Both youth and man stared at the globe and the man half hidden in shadows spinning it. A chuckle sounded beside the globe. A basso voice rumbled out of the chuckle.
There it is, Peter. The biggest man-trap in all of history, and the Duke's headed into its jaws. Is it not a magnificent thing that I, the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, do?
Assuredly, Baron, said the man. His voice came out tenor with a sweet musical quality. The fat hand descended onto the globe, stopped the spinning. Now all eyes in the room could focus on the motionless surface and see that it was the kind of globe made for wealthy collectors or planetary governors of the Empire. It had the stamp of imperial handicraft about it. Latitude and longitude lines were laid in with a hair-fine platinum wire. The polar caps were insets of the finest cloud milk diamonds. The fat hand moved, tracing details on the surface.
I invite you to observe.
The basso voice rumbled.
Observe closely, Peter. And you too, Fade Rutha, my darling. From 60 degrees north to 70 degrees south, these exquisite ripples. Their coloring, does it not remind you of sweet caramels? And nowhere do you see blue of lakes or rivers or seas. And these lovely polar caps, so small. Could anyone mistake this place? Arrakis, truly unique. A superb setting for a unique victory.
A smile touched Peter's lips.
And to think, Baron, the Padishah Emperor believes he's given the Duke your spice planet. How poignant. That's the nonsensical statement, the Baron rumbled. You say this to confuse young Fade Ruatha, but it is not necessary to confuse my nephew.
The sullen-faced youth stirred in his chair, smoothed the wrinkle in the black leotards he wore. He sat upright, and a discreet tapping sounded at the door in the wall behind him. Peter unfolded from his chair, crossed to the door, cracked it wide enough to accept a message cylinder. He closed the door, unrolled the cylinder, and scanned it. A chuckle sounded from him, and another.
Well?
The Baron demanded.
The fool answered us, Baron. Whenever did an Atreides refuse the opportunity for a gesture?
The Baron asked.
Well, what does it say? He's most uncouth, Baron. Addresses you as Harkonnen. No Sarat share cousin. No title. Nothing. It's a good name.
The Baron growled, and his voice betrayed his impatience.
What does dear Leto say? He says, your offer of a meeting is refused. I've oft-times met your treachery, and this all men know. And?
The Baron asked.
He says, the art of Canly still has admirers in the Empire. He signs it, Duke Leto of Arrakis.
Peter began to laugh.
Of Arrakis? Oh my, that is almost too rich. Be silent, Peter.
The Baron said, and the laughter stopped as though shut off with a switch.
Canly, is it?
The Baron asked.
Vendetta, eh? And he uses the nice old words so rich in tradition to be sure I know he means it. You made the peace gesture,
Peter said.
The forms have been obeyed. For a mentat, you talk too much, Peter.
The Baron said, and he thought, I must do away with that one soon. He has almost outlived his usefulness. The Baron stared across the room at his mentat assassin, seeing the features about him that most people noticed first. The eyes, the shaded slits of blue within blue, the eyes without any white in them at all. A grin flashed across Peter's face. It was like a mask grimace beneath those eyes like holes. But Baron, never has revenge been more beautiful. It is to see a plan of the most exquisite treachery to make Leto exchange Caladan for Dune, and without alternative because the Emperor orders it. How waggish of you. In a cold voice, the Baron said, You have a flux of a mouth, Peter. But I am happy, my Baron, whereas you are touched by jealousy. Peter. Ah, Baron. Is it not regrettable you were unable to devise this delicious scheme by yourself? Someday I will have you strangled, Peter. Of a certainty, Baron. Enfin. But a kind act is never lost, eh? Have you been chewing verite or samuta, Peter? Truth without fear surprises the Baron, Peter said. His face drew down into a caricature of a frowning mask. Aha! But you see, Baron, I know as a mentat when you will send the executioner. You hold back just so long as I am useful. To move sooner would be wasted, and yet I'm of much use. I know what it is to you. Learn it from that lovely Dune planet. Waste not. True, Baron? The Baron continued to stare at Peter. Bade Ruatha squirmed in his chair. These wrangling fools, he thought. My uncle cannot talk to his mentat without arguing. Do they think I have nothing to do except listen to their arguments? Bade, the Baron said. I told you to listen and learn when I invited you in here. Are you learning? Yes, uncle. The voice was carefully observant. Sometimes I wonder about you, Peter, the Baron said. I cause pain out of necessity, but I swear he takes a positive delight in it. For myself, I can feel pity toward the poor Duke Leto. Dr. Yue will move against him soon, and that'll be the end of all the Atreides. But surely Leto will know whose hand directed the pliant doctor, and knowing that will be a terrible thing. Then why haven't you directed the doctor to slip a kinjal between his ribs quietly and efficiently? Peter asked. You talk of pity, but... And the Duke must know when I encompass his doom, the Baron said. And the other great houses must learn of it. The knowledge will give them pause. I'll gain a bit more room to maneuver. The necessity is obvious, but I don't have to like it. Room to maneuver, Peter sneered. Already you have the Emperor's eyes on you, Baron. You move too boldly.
One day the Emperor will send a legion or two of his Sardaukar down here onto Gaiety Prime, and that'll be the end to the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen.
You'd like to see that, wouldn't you, Peter?
The Baron asked.
You'd enjoy seeing the corpse of Sardaukar pillage through my cities and sack this castle. You'd truly enjoy that.
Does the Baron need to ask?
Peter whispered.
You should have been a Bashar of the Corps.
The Baron said.
You're too interested in blood and pain. Perhaps I was too quick with my promise of the spoils of Arrakis.
Peter took 5 curiously mincing steps into the room, stopped directly behind Freydurata. There was a tight air of tension in the room, and the youth looked up at Peter with a worried frown.
Do not toy with Peter, Baron,
Peter said.
You promised me the Lady Jessica. You promised her to me.
For what, Peter?
The Baron asked.
For pain?
Peter stared at him, dragging out the silence. Feyd-Rautha moved his suspensor chair to one side, said, Uncle, do I have to stay? You said you'd...
My darling Feyd-Rautha grows impatient,
The Baron said. He moved within the shadows beside the globe.
Patience fade.
And he turned his attention back to the Mentat.
What of the Dukeling, the child Paul, my dear Peter?
The drab will bring him to you, Baron,
Peter muttered.
That's not my question.
The Baron said.
You'll recall that you predicted the Bene Gesserit witch would bear a daughter to the Duke. You were wrong, eh, Mentat?
I'm not often wrong, Baron,
Peter said, and for the first time there was fear in his voice.
Give me that. I'm not often wrong. And you know yourself these Bene Gesserit bear were mostly daughters. Even the Emperor's consort had produced only females.
Uncle, said Feyd-Rautha, you said there'd be something important here for me to...
Listen to my nephew.
The Baron said.
He aspires to rule my barony, yet he cannot rule himself.
The Baron stirred beside the globe, a shadow among shadows.
Well then, Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen, I summon you here hoping to teach you a bit of my wisdom. Have you observed our good Mentat? You should have learned something from this exchange.
But, Uncle...
A most efficient Mentat, Peter. Wouldn't you say, Feyd?
Yes, but...
Ah, indeed, but he consumes too much spice. Eats it like candy. Look at his eyes. He might have come directly from the Archean labor pool. Efficient, Peter. But he's still emotional and prone to passionate outbursts. Efficient, but Peter, he can still err.
Peter spoke in a low, sullen tone.
Did you call me here to impair my efficiency with criticism, Baron?
Impair your efficiency, you know me better, Peter. I wish only for my nephew to understand the limitations of a Mentat.
Are you already training my replacement?
Peter demanded.
Replace you? Why, Peter? Where could I find another Mentat with your cunning and venom?
The same place you found me, Baron.
Perhaps I should, at that.
The Baron mused.
You do seem a bit unstable lately, and the spice you eat.
Are my pleasures too expensive, Baron? Do you object to them?
My dear Peter, your pleasures are what tie you to me. How could I object to that? I merely wish my nephew to observe this about you.
Then I'm on display,
Peter said.
Shall I dance? Shall I perform my various functions for the eminent Feyd-Rautha?
Precisely.
The Baron said.
You are on display. Now be silent.
He glanced at Feyd-Rautha, noting his nephew's lips, the full and pouting look about them. The Harkonnen genetic marker now twisted slightly in amusement.
This is a Mentat, Feyd. It has been trained and conditioned to perform certain duties. The fact that it's encased in a human body, however, must not be overlooked. A serious drawback, that. I sometimes think the ancients with their thinking machines had the right idea. Those were toys compared to me, Peter snarled. You young self-baron could outperform those machines. Perhaps,
the Baron said.
Oh, well.
He took a deep breath, belched.
Now, Peter, outline for my nephew the salient features of our campaign against the House Atreides. Function as a mentat for us, if you please. Baron, I've warned you not to trust one so young with this information. My observations of... I'll be the judge of this,
the Baron said.
I give you an order, mentat. Perform one of your various functions.
So be it, Peter said. He straightened, assuming an odd attitude of dignity as though it were another mask, but this time clothing his entire body.
In a few days, standard, the entire household of the Duke Leto will embark on a Spacing Guild liner for Arrakis. The guild will deposit them at the city of Arrakeen, rather than at our city of Carthag. The Duke's mentat, Thufir Hawat, will have concluded rightly that Arrakeen is easier to defend. Listen carefully, Fade,
the Baron said.
Observe the plans within plans within plans.
Fade nodded, thinking, this is more like it. The old monster is letting me in on secret things at last. He must really mean for me to be his heir.
There are several tangential possibilities,
Peter said.
I indicate that House Atreides will go to Arrakis. We must not, however, ignore the possibility the Duke has contracted with the Guild to remove him to a place of safety outside the system. Others in like circumstances have become renegade houses, taking family atomics and shields and fleeing beyond the Imperium. The Duke's too proud of a man for that,
the Baron said.
It is a possibility,
Peter said.
The ultimate effect for us would be the same, however. No, it would not,
the Baron growled.
I must have him dead and his line ended. That's the high probability,
Peter said.
There are certain preparations that indicate when a house is going renegade. The Duke appears to be doing none of these things. So,
the Baron sighed.
Get on with it, Peter.
At Arrakeen, Peter said,
the Duke and his family will occupy the residency, lately the home of Count and Lady Fenring. The ambassadors to the smugglers,
the Baron chuckled. Ambassadors to what? Fade asked.
Your uncle makes a joke,
Peter said.
He calls Count Fenring ambassador to the smugglers, indicating the Emperor's interest in smuggling operations on Arrakis.
Fade turned a puzzled stare at his uncle. Why?
Don't be dense, Fade,
the Baron snapped.
As long as the Guild remains effectively outside the Imperial control, how could it be otherwise? How else could spies and assassins move about?
Fade mouth made a soundless "oh."
We've arranged diversions at the residency,
Peter said.
There'll be an attempt on the life of the Atreides heir, an attempt which could succeed. Peter,
the Baron rumbled.
You indicated. I indicated accidents can happen,
Peter said.
And the attempt must appear valid. But the lad has such a sweet young body,
the Baron said.
Of course, he's potentially more dangerous than the father, and with that witch mother training him. A cursed woman. Oh, well. Please continue, Peter. What will have divined that we have an agent planted on him,
Peter said.
The obvious suspect is Dr. Yue, who is indeed our agent, but Hawat has investigated and found that our doctor is a Suk school graduate with Imperial conditioning, supposedly safe enough to minister even to the Emperor. Great store is set on Imperial conditioning. It's assumed that ultimate conditioning cannot be removed without killing the subject. However, as someone once observed, given the right lever, you can move a planet. We found the lever that moved the doctor.
How? Fade asked. He found this a fascinating subject. Everyone knew you couldn't subvert Imperial conditioning.
Another time,
the Baron said.
Continue, Peter. In place of Yue,
Peter said.
we'll drag a most interesting suspect across Hawat's path. The very audacity of the suspect will recommend her to the Hawat's attention.
Her? Feyd-Rautha asked.
The Lady Jessica herself.
The Baron said.
Is it not sublime?
Peter asked.
Hawat's mind will be so filled with this prospect, it'll impair his functions as a mentat. He may even try to kill her.
Peter frowned then.
But I don't think he'll be able to carry it off. You don't want him to, eh?
The Baron asked.
Don't distract me,
Peter said.
While Hawat's occupied with the Lady Jessica, we'll divert him further with uprisings in a few garrison towns and the like. These will be put down. The Duke must believe he's gaining a measure of security. Then, when the moment is ripe, we'll signal Yue and move in with our major force. Go ahead, tell him.
The Baron said.
We'll move in strengthened by 2 legions of Sardaukar disguised as Harkonnen livery.
Sardaukar? Feyd-Rautha breathed. His mind focused on the dreaded Imperial troops, the killers without mercy, the soldier fanatics of the Padishah Emperor.
You see now I trust you, Feyd.
The Baron said.
No hint of this must ever reach another great house, else the Lanstrad might unite against the Imperial House and there'll be chaos. The main point,
Peter said,
is this. Since House Harkonnen is being used to do the Imperial dirty work, we've gained a true advantage. It's a dangerous advantage, to be sure, but if used cautiously, will bring House Harkonnen greater wealth than that of any other house in the Imperium. You have no idea how much wealth is involved, Feyd,
the Baron said.
Not in your wildest imaginings. To begin, we'll have the irrevocable directorship of the Koam Company.
Feyd-Rautha nodded. Wealth was the thing. Koam was the key to the wealth. Each noble house dipping from the company's coffers whatever it could under the power of the directorships. Those Koam directorships, they were the real evidence of political power in the Imperium. Passing with the shifts of voting, strength within the Lanstrad as it balanced itself against the Emperor and his supporters.
The Duke Leto,
Peter said,
may attempt to flee to the New Fremen scum along the desert's edge. Or he may try to send his family into that imagined security. But that path is blocked by one of His Majesty's agents, the planetary ecologist. You may remember him. Kynes. Feyd remembers him,
the Baron said.
Get on with it. You do not drool very prettily, Baron,
Peter said.
Get on with it, I command you.
The Baron roared. Peter shrugged.
If matters go as planned, he said, House Harkonnen will have a sub-fiel on Arrakis within a standard year. Your uncle will have dispensation of that fief. His own personal agent will rule on Arrakis.
More profits, Feyd-Rautha said.
Indeed,
the Baron said, and he thought, it's only just. We're the ones who tamed Arrakis, except for the few mongrel Fremen hiding in the skirts of the desert. And some tame smugglers bound to the planet almost as tightly as the native labor pool.
And the great houses will know that the Baron has destroyed the Atreides,
Peter said.
They will know. They will know,
the Baron breathed.
Loveliest of all,
Peter said,
is the Duke will know too. He knows now. He can already feel the trap. It's true the Duke knows,
the Baron said, and his voice held a note of sadness.
He could not help but know. More's the pity.
The Baron moved out and away from the globe of Arrakis. As he emerged from the shadows, his figure took on dimensions. Grossly and immensely fat, and with subtle bulges beneath folds of his dark robes to reveal that all that fat was sustained partly by portable suspensors harnessed to his flesh. He might weigh 200 standard kilos in actuality, but his feet could carry no more than 50 of them.
I am hungry,
the Baron rumbled, and he rubbed his protruding lips with his beringed hand, stared down at Feyd-Rautha through his fat and folded eyes.
Send for food, my darling. We will eat before we retire.
And that is the end of chapter 2. I thought I could do a couple chapters every time. I hope that everyone enjoyed today's first 2 chapters of Dune. We're just scratching the surface of the story, so if you are off to Dreamland, I hope you have sweet, sweet dreams. And for everyone else, I hope you enjoyed the story. I hope you have some nice sleeps after this or during. And I love you guys. Sleep well, okay? Bye.